Let's start with a big question. What if defending someone else's rights wasn't just about charity? What if it was actually a fundamental act of self-preservation? Today, we're diving into a really provocative principle that completely reframes our idea of justice and why, well, it might just be essential for our own survival.
So, all the information for this explainer comes directly from a manifesto you can find online at unholy101-manifesto.com. That's unholy, the numbers 101, a dash, then manifesto.com. And at the very heart of it all is one single powerful phrase.
Now, on the surface, that sounds like a really noble moral statement, right? But the manifesto behind it argues that it's something much more strategic and, frankly, a lot more personal.
And that's the real question we're digging into here. When we stand up for other people, are we just doing an act of kindness? Or is it a strategic move, a form of self-defense that's designed to protect the very system that guarantees our own freedom?
Okay, let's explore this first big idea. Justice as self-interest. How on earth can standing up for someone else actually be about protecting yourself? You know, we usually think of helping others as charity. It's a moral duty for sure, but we see it as separate from our own well-being. This manifesto just flips that whole idea on its head. It calls it enlightened self-interest. The argument is, when you protect someone else's rights, you're not just being nice. You are actively reinforcing the very conditions and rules that are there to protect you.
And to really get this, the manifesto uses a really powerful metaphor, what it calls the fabric of our freedom.
So the source asks us to stop thinking about justice as some dry legal term. Instead, I want you to picture it like a social fabric. You know, a net of interconnected threads that holds all of our freedom together. If you start pulling on a single thread by allowing an injustice to happen to just one person, the entire cloth starts to fray.
So, if justice really is this protective fabric, what happens when we see a thread start to break and we just look the other way? What is the real danger of apathy? Well, injustice almost always starts by targeting a specific group. Could be racism, homophobia, any kind of exclusion. And the strategy behind it relies on everybody else, the people who feel safe at that moment, to just stay silent. But that silence, that's exactly what lets a much more dangerous mechanism take hold.
And here it is. This is the critical insight. The ultimate threat isn't the specific prejudice itself. It's the mechanism of oppression that we allow to be built. Because once a society agrees that it's okay to strip rights from any one group, it creates a tool, a weapon that can then be turned against anyone.
So, if that's the danger, how do you fight back? The manifesto offers a simple but really powerful, unifying principle to counter this whole strategy of division.
And this is where that phrase comes roaring back as the antidote. No injustice is foreign to me. It's a personal declaration that says, you will not divide me from my neighbor. It's a commitment to treat any injustice to anyone as a direct threat to the entire fabric.
And of course, this idea isn't new. It powerfully echoes one of the most important sentiments of the 20th century from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This shows us this principle isn't just some clever new phrase. It's a foundational ideal for any free society.
So how do we actually live this principle? Well, the source turns this idea into a very direct call to action.
It really boils down to 3 steps. First, speak up. Simple as that. Don't be silent when you see injustice, even if it has nothing to do with you. Second, stand with those being targeted. And finally, maybe the most critical step happens inside your own head. Recognize that their fight is your fight, because your freedom fundamentally depends on theirs.
And the end goal here, it isn't just about preventing bad things from happening. It's about building a better, stronger society. A society that actually lives by this principle is more resilient. It can't be so easily manipulated by fear and division. It becomes more peaceful, more productive, and way more united. So it all comes back to that powerful metaphor of the fabric of freedom. And the source leaves us with one final, very personal question to think about. If injustice is what frays that fabric, who will you be a thread for?